Welcome back to Dice to Pixels, episode 30.
30.
Everything gets achier and tireder from here on.
I don't know. I tend to differ because I was quite the partier when I was 30.
Nope. Lies. And besides, cocaine doesn't count.
Oh,
yeah.
Shit.
And also, I'm in my mid-30s and my back hurts all the time.
Yeah, but you've got all that sexy to carry, so.
Well played, sir. All right, so the hot topic for today is, of course, Wizards. I think this will be the last word in the saga around the OGL changes.
God, I hope so.
Since they announced it just earlier today, earlier yesterday for you watching, that they have released the entire SRD 5.1 under the Creative Commons 4.0 license. Which is pretty wild. And I think they screwed up. And we'll get into that in just a second.
I'm very curious.
So yeah, I mean, great news for everybody who was, for all the other publishers. I was really surprised by this move. This is not one of the outcomes I had ever expected. Keeping the OGL 1.0A, I was like, sure, I can see that happening. Absolutely. Actually releasing it all under Creative Commons, a little bit mind-blowing. So, yeah, pretty wild. Great news for anyone who's doing D&D content. Good news for all the people who were super grumpy about it. And I think they fucked up. So here's why. If you look at the SRD 5.1, there are terms like Beholder still in there, which means that those terms are now Creative Commons, which Wizards has been very careful about for a lot of years, making sure that Beholders was their property. And as far as I can tell, that's no longer the case as of today, yesterday. So
I'm kind of tempted to go through and just make a full list of all of them and just like put out a tweet chain of just like all of these are no longer protected or are protected or...
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's confusing.
So a little bit about the Creative Commons license. Basically what the Creative Commons license was created to do. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to claim that it does this, but what it was created to do is essentially unwind copyright. So the idea is that if you create something, it is copyrighted and you are the one who controls how that is disseminated. Reproduced, etc. Anyone who makes something derivative of it or anything else, that depending on how derivative, that is your copyright and you have copyrights. Oddly enough.
What?
So Creative Commons is what's commonly referred to as a copyleft license. It exists with the goal of essentially unwinding copyright to the point where the license term in the license, it actually specifies that the term is the same term as the copyright would be.
Okay, so basically the term beholder is no longer protected by copyright, possibly.
I believe that to be the case.
Okay.
Do not take that as legal advice. But in the original SRD, SRD 5, they call out all proper names and then a whole bunch of other terms. I actually have it up on my laptop, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, Beholder is specifically called out as an exempt, as something that is not under the OGL 1.0. So you cannot use it. That's why there's been all this stuff about, we can't name our Beholder Beholders. It's a gazer or it's a, whatever. For years, this has been an issue because Wizards owned the copyright on Beholder. As far as I can tell, as of today, they don't. They have released that to the public, which is going to be interesting. And I think they screwed up. I think they were supposed to take that out of the document before. You guys are writing stuff in the document.
I'm sorry.
I'm not repeating that on screen. So anyways, there's a bunch of different names and everything. So basically it used to be proper names and a whole bunch of other terms were specifically excluded.
Yep.
All of that text is gone. it just does not exist in the document anymore. Basically, they took the first 2 pages that had the OGL spelled out, and they just replaced it with 1 page, a blank page, and 1 page that just has the Creative Commons 4 disclaimer. Pretty sure they screwed up. I'm pretty sure they were supposed to go through and remove those terms. But now that they've published it, it's done. It's irrevocable. It's public. People have downloaded it. I've downloaded it. Yeah. It's out there. It is officially licensed under Creative Commons. They cannot unwind it.
So they can't even say, this is an update to our license.
Nope.
Interesting.
The Creative Commons license are specifically designed to not allow for that. The only way that it, again, not a lawyer, I want to be very clear. The only way for it to be terminated is if you violate the terms of the license. And that license pretty much says you can do whatever the hell you want. So it's pretty hard to violate the terms of that license. The only way would be to not attribute them. To be clear, if you use the terms, you would still have to say this includes Wizards, Creative Commons property or whatever. But you can still use it, whereas before you couldn't. Nobody got licensed to use the name Beholder. People still used it occasionally illegally, but Wizards maintained for the longest time that they owned that word and you can't use it. And as far as I can tell, that and many other words that are in that document are no longer copyrighted. Or, they are effectively not copyrighted by Wizards anymore.
And it's a hell of a meaty document, too. It was 403 pages for this SRD 5.1. And oh man. Well,
it's so I actually went through, I did not go through with a fine tooth comb, but I went through it, and this appears to be, as I said, literally the other SRD, word for word. I didn't see any changes, just with the first two pages that spelled out license. They just swapped those out. So this contains all of the races, all of the spells, all of the everything. And there are even specific names of I'll find one in just a minute, but if you just go to the old SRD, which as of filming is still available on their website, if it's not up, just drop a message in the description, in the comments, and we'll post it somewhere, as I'm sure many other people will as well. But
ours is special.
That's right. We get it from us because we're better. There are words that were explicitly called out as not allowed in the old one that are still in that document. So it will be very, very interesting to see what people do with that.
The floodgates will open.
Yeah, well, I mean, I use Beholder specifically because that's been a popular, I think everybody that's ever been in the gaming sphere in any significant ways, knows about the Beholder issue. There are so many games that have Beholders that don't call them Beholders because Wizards has had this stranglehold on the term. And I don't think they do anymore.
And so, even lately, the Beholders almost become the prototypical, I guess, mascot for D&D, more or less. Because with a lot of whenever people are talking about D&D, or you see D&D advertising and all that stuff, it's usually you'll see a Beholder.
Yeah, well, the Magic set, the Forgotten Realms Magic set, a lot of the box art and everything else, I don't know about all of it because I bought a bunch of them, but I don't remember what all of them had. But the Beholder was a main feature in the art for that as well.
Yep.
They've leaned into it heavily over the years because they had this hold on it, and I pretty sure they screwed up. So so that'll be interesting. I'm very curious to see if other people start picking up on that, and whether Wizards says anything about it or just tries to kind of, if I were them, there's nothing they can do about it as far as I know. So I just shut my mouth about it and hope nobody notices.
Yeah.
Fortunately for them, this podcast won't get that many views.
But let's be honest, there's lots of people that are going to be pouring through that document right now.
I'm not the only one that will have noticed that.
Yes.
But yeah, so anyways, go ahead and take a look yourself. There are terms in there that I'm pretty sure they never meant to be publicly available. So that'll be fun. Other than that, I mean, it's obviously, it's great. They did a complete 180 on a bunch of stuff. They have gone the exact opposite route that they were planning on. Originally, they said they wanted to be able to like pull licenses and stuff if people were being offensive. They obviously don't have that ability anymore.
Yeah.
I was very wrong last week I said that I don't think that was going to change. And that definitely changed, which floored me. So anyways, that pretty much wraps it up for the Wizard stuff. We're still going to play some other TTRPGs in the near future. I'm hoping 3-4 weeks from now, I'm hoping that we will do an episode about alternative systems. I'm going to run through a bunch of them. I think we're going to try and maybe play a session or two of a couple of them. I've been fishing for some suggestions on Discord, and people have been giving them, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll do a little sort of debrief.
Yeah, that'll be cool
About that stuff. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always been interested in reading the Pathfinder, because you've talked about it several times with Pathfinder and Starfinder. Yeah. And how much you like that system more than the D&D system. Well, the action economy.
Yeah, the action setup in Pathfinder 2 and Starfinder I find much better.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I'd like to just read through it. I mean, it's what I do. So
you read textbooks.
I do.
Nerd.
Which is funny because I never did when I was in school.
Just the wrong material.
History books I found fascinating.
Yeah,
I like the history, reading through the history texts and stuff, but
I think this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually wish that you could get essentially history books of like Faerun. I would find those more interesting than the narrative versions that they do.
It's what I liked about the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, is it was just the entire book was just the history of the Sword Coast.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't done more books like that, because people do want to know the lore.
I assume they just don't sell as well.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, and also too, there's a lot of lore that's put into a bunch of like module, like with Descent into Avernus. There was a bunch of lore that was dumped into that as well, right? That you wouldn't find in the Sword Coast.
I mean, if they were clever, if they were actually clever, well, I don't know if the economy of this would actually work out or not, but I think that if they were clever, they would do all of that, publish whatever, and then they would do like a synopsis in a history format. Mm-hmm. So instead of reading these 18 books with all the narration and everything else, you can just buy this like History of Faerun volume 1 to whatever.
The pocket book.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like what Beetle and Grimm does when they have their box sets. They have each section of the book broken down into smaller, like easier to page through books. So I imagine they probably do that with the lore in those books then as well, I would think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. But I don't know how many people would actually buy them. So it may be, well, okay, if this is the sample set, I think they do well, but I'm not sure we're representative. I mean, I think they do well, but then again, what do I know? It's probably not worth it for them to try and re-release it in a different form. I don't know.
It's one of those things too, where with a lot of that lore being in place for so many years, and a lot of people that have been playing the game for, decades, a lot of this stuff that they already know. So I think collectors would probably buy it.
I will caveat that to say they think they know.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because nobody reads the player's handbook.
Well, it's not that. It's the fact that it changes. Like we talked about this a while back.
Yeah. Again, they like what they did in Fizzbands with the dragons and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Like honestly, I think it'd be great if they had like a canonical reference. Like they'd almost have to do it digitally. I don't think it would work well as a paper offering, because that way they could update it. But if you could like get the canonical history of Faerun / whatever, that was always like guaranteed to be up to date, even if it was like part of D&D Beyond where you have to pay $1 for access or something, then you could quickly look stuff up and know what the current state of things are, because like they retcon things, and that can actually be really distracting for someone who thinks they know the lore, and then somebody at the table who read something more recent is like, no, you're wrong. And the rules lawyer at the table.
Think of the wars that could begin from that.
Could begin, can they? No, I'm sure they happen all the time.
Yep.
I do it in game where it's just like, all right, both of you are 1v1ing each other right now. We're not going to have fist fights, but if you roll a natural 20, then you win.
The other one just instant dies.
Yeah.
The bad hammer of history comes down and smites you.
Damn it, he put habanero peppers on my pizza.
Yeah, I think that would be a useful resource. So, wizards, come on. We're wizards, shills, right? So,
Yep.
wizards, come on. Do
They
it for
still
us.
haven't sent me my hat yet.
Or our checks for
Or
that
our
matter.
checks.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Maybe it's because I just told the world that they uncopyrighted Beholder. Anyways, yeah. I think that a history book would be super cool. I would probably read that. I would be more likely to read that than the actual modules.
Mm.
Big time.
Yeah, it'd be easier for writing your own stuff. And
And you wouldn't have to buy everything.
oh my god, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because you bought one of the packs from D&D Beyond, and that was expensive. And then like we have basically all of the source books, and that takes up 2 shelves in our bookshelves. And
Yeah, I bought the whatever legendary bundle
Mhm.
that came with everything with D&D Beyond, but I did that, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. So I don't have everything anymore.
Mhm.
And like I don't want to have to buy the bad example because I'm pretty sure there's nothing in there, but I don't want to be forced to buy the Acquisitions Incorporated book on the off chance that there's something that applies to the Sword Coast from it.
Mhm.
I don't think there is. I think it's completely separate, but I don't know, right? So it'd be great to be able to just have a guaranteed up to date version of the history, just as a reference.
Yeah. Because I think with Ravnica, it was, I think the Ravnica had the Minotaur race. I think. I'm probably wrong. And
Oh, I don't know.
Mm.
Could
there was
be.
another Strixhaven, I think, introduced
the owl
like
killer.
the owl. Yeah. Like they were like an owl.
Mhm.
Pretty sure that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like, something like that here and there. But I do agree, like an amalgamated version of just like all of that would be great.
Yeah, and just like the history around like the lines of dragons and stuff, because I know that's been screwed with several times. Like
Mhm.
stuff like that would be, maybe it never comes up, maybe it's not a big deal, but on the other hand, it'd be really nice to have an actual canonical version of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I think is part of the reason that some people, I mean, we talked about it again a few weeks ago. We did an episode where we talked about some of the like build your own campaign versus buy the source books and everything. And I think part of the reason why more people are moving to more homebrew is just because it's hard to keep track.
Yeah. If you want to stay true to the current lore that's in there, then yeah, it's hard to keep track. Otherwise, you could just make up your own in that world to begin with. But
Yeah, absolutely.
but then if you do run into situations where the lore is important and it goes against what you've already been talking about, then that kind of screws stuff up.
Well, and the other problem that I've had, and I haven't had this very often because I've only ever tried to run like one thing in official D&D. But the other problem that I've had is, you know, one of the people, if you say we're running in the Sword Coast, for instance, one of the people at the table knows the history, and then they're like, no, that's not right. And it kind of upsets me that that's not right. Even if they don't like call it
Yeah.
out and want to argue about it, they're still kind of like, well, that's not how it goes. And it's like, that's fair. Like if you're invested into the story, which you have every right to be as a D&D player, like good for you for keeping track of it. I don't want to be the person that's annoying you at the table by not knowing the actual history. So, and I think that that's
That's fair.
true of an increasing number of
Mhm.
DMs. I think that's a fair statement. But yeah.
I just try not to care.
about anything ever.
Well, you know, going into something like that, like I'll read up on certain things just so like if my character knows something about Baldur's Gate, right? Like I'll read up on Baldur's Gate specifically for that, but it's not like I'm going to lose my shit because
No, but the hard part is when somebody's been playing for 20 years
Yeah,
and they've played sort of exclusively in the Sword Coast, like it's hard for them to to jump around to different games that all have like their own little flavor of the Sword Coast. Like you almost want to, as a player, you almost want to be either we're doing the lore or we're just not doing the lore.
Mm.
And since I, as a DM, don't want to have to learn that, I've always steered clear and done my own stuff. But
created their own story.
Yeah. So, but I can totally get it from a player perspective. Like I would find that slightly annoying if I came to a different game and was like, no, everything you know about this area is wrong. It's like, oh shit. That sucks. So I get it.
It's not Baldur's Gate. It's Heimdall's fence.
No. Yeah. So anyways, moving on from D&D stuff, was there anything...
I will say this. I hope this is the last we fucking talk about this OGL shit.
Well, I mean...
I understand it's been like big news, but it's just holy crap.
Well, I don't know what else there could be to talk about at this point because they have released it under Creative Commons. Like they can't undo it. So, I mean, I think we're done with it because this was a pretty permanent solution.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you guys been playing? I've been playing something fun, but I've been talking too much already. So, what have you guys been playing? You talk first.
Oh, well then. I decided
Age before beauty.
Well, it's true. I mean, I got both you fuckers in patch, so I decided to be a race car driver. Game Pass, love Game Pass. I had this mood for racing games. I tried Forza on a recommendation. I decided to start with Forza 4, Forza Horizon 4. Got into it a bit, was liking it, but I wanted something that was more, I guess, linear, like racetracks, not open map with just certain sections, sectioned off and stuff like that. I just wanted like specific tracks. So there was a game on there called Grid Legends, and it's the recent entry in the Grid series. Just a racing game. Yep. They had a really good story mode in it with some live action cutscenes that were actually pretty well done. I was quite surprised with it. The racing is great. It was a good game. I played through that, enjoyed the story, and the end of the story kind of connects to their career mode where one of the engineers on the team in the main story separates and creates its own team and says, "Oh, we'll start from the beginning." And then that is like the separate career mode that you go through. So you're still the same driver you were, which is just nameless driver. Yeah, you were number 22. But you stay in that position, but now you're starting from the rookies and you're trying to work your way back up into the pro circuit. And it's been fun. I've been having a blast of it. But then Xbox decided to go and have their developer direct on Wednesday. And the creators of The Evil Within, Tango Gameworks, they announced and showed a trailer for this game called Hi-Fi Rush. And then said basically, it's available now on Game Pass. Mm-hmm. So, okay, cool. So I downloaded that on the good old Xbox. It's really cool. It's a very bright, vibrant, colorful world. I would say it's very similar to Devil May Cry meets a rhythm-based game. What I mean, is throughout the game, there's always like music playing, but you can see these visual cues on the walls, and even the little companion that you have kind of floating beside you will like blink to like the beat of the song, right?
It's a rhythm game.
Yeah. So you're basically timing your attacks to this beat, and by keeping up to the beat, you do more damage to other enemies, and all the enemies' attacks are to the same beat. So it makes it easier to kind of predict when they're going to attack because of this. Mm. So it's pretty decent. I've started playing it. I've got it in, I think, the 3rd level right now. I'm having a fun with it. It's just a straight up fun, different little game,
Cool.
So.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. I've been playing Hardspace Shipbreaker. It's you're just breaking down ships. You're a salvager in space.
I was just going to ask, are we talking spaceships or ships?
Spaceships.
Nice.
Yes, it is. It's like Power Wash Simulator where you're just going in and doing the job. I have a type.
Yeah, right.
Yep. So I've been playing the hell out of that.
All right.
Yeah, it's good times. Except when you blow yourself up by not being able to pull out a reactor fast enough and putting it away someplace, and you blow yourself up.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
So not quite like Power Wash.
No,
Simulator.
there's death in this one. And also, what was it? What do we, over $1 billion? You start off over $1 billion in debt.
Well, yeah, I mean, inflation's a bitch, right?
Right?
Cool.
I just bought a new TV.
Yeah. I've been playing Graveyard Keeper,
Yes.
which is, I think Sarah described it as a...
Spooky Stardew Valley.
Yeah, spooky Stardew Valley, which kind of right, except I would go so far as to say like horrific Stardew Valley.
I started playing it last night.
Yeah. You get into cannibalism in the first 2 minutes?
Yeah. And then the skull talking, that was
Yeah.
I heard the second I heard that last night when she was playing it, I was like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "Is that an NPC?" And Sarah's like laughing, like, "Yeah." So then I just sat there, started going,
yeah, it starts at cannibalism and gets progressively darker from there.
Yep.
So I'm loving it. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I've put I don't know, whatever 84 game days is in real time. Their game days are minutes. They're not, like maybe 20 minutes a day or something like that.
something like that.
And sleeping makes them go faster. Mm-hmm. But I've been having a lot of fun. The tech tree and the crafting is pretty in depth.
Yeah. I was not expecting that. That was very in depth.
The whole sort of game revolves around, I'm not going to spoil the storyline because I think it's worth letting it unveil itself. There's not that much to it, but it's pretty awful. But the whole game sort of revolves around improving your graveyard and church so that you can get more, we'll call them patrons for now, to your church. And it's pretty wild. I'm really enjoying it. So
another game I'm playing that I forgot to mention too is called Pentiment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a visual novel. I didn't quite realize it was a visual novel when I started. I knew there was a lot of reading involved with it, but it takes place in the 16th century, I believe it is. And it's a writer writing copying, I guess, a copy of his magnum opus, or opus, or whatever you want to say, at a monastery. Yeah, a monastery. And all the art style is like the style of the books of that time, and all like the graffiti in the margins and stuff. And then the different people, like peasants, have a different writing type in their speech bubbles versus the main character versus the clergy and stuff. It's kind of interesting that way. So
interesting.
Yeah, I'm not super far in it yet, but it's enjoyable.
Fair enough.
It's available on Game Pass.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a few games on Game Pass that I need to take a look at. I'm hoping soon I will have a lot more time on my hands to do that with. One quick note, because I was going to mention it, I'm sure people have seen it, but if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, Amazon Prime Gaming is giving away they give away games all the time, but the next month, so starting February 2nd, I think, you can download one of the Elder Scrolls games. I believe it's Oblivion, but I might be lying and it might be Morrowind. But either way, it's a free Elder Scrolls, so definitely worth the download. I'll be grabbing it for sure. Because I don't think I own it for PC. Could be wrong, though. It could be in my Steam library already. Wouldn't put it past me to have it. Yeah. And I've been meaning to... I'm going to cough for a second. I've been meaning to tell you, Sarah, for a couple weeks now, my buddy Aaron played through Immortality.
Oh.
And...
he had thoughts?
Yeah, so he loved it, for starters. But we were talking about it, and I think what he said sort of jives with my experience in that he said it's an absolute work of art,
Yes.
but he's not sure about it as a game.
I don't disagree at all.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
I need to try it again. So I tried it a while back. I don't
Mhm.
remember if I mentioned that on the podcast or not, but I tried it a while back, and I couldn't get into it because I approached it as a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I need to go back. So I was describing to Aaron, you know those logic puzzles where it's like, Chad won't sit next to Sarah if she's wearing a purple sweater, but, you know, Lucy,
She knows I hate that sweater.
Lucy won't sit at a table with daffodils and like all that shit. And then you have to like map it out and do like the logic graph. I think I need to go back into that game and like treat it as a logic graph and like make that.
Yep.
And then I think I will enjoy the shit out of it.
Yes.
Because that's my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
I went into it as a game, and I like as a video game that I could just sit there and play, and it's pretty clearly not that. Like I didn't even have a scrap of paper with me or anything. I was just like going through shit, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm lost.
I didn't even approach it with like a scrap of paper type thing. I'm just like, whatever, I'll just go through this, and like I still enjoyed it that way, without like trying to build a logic tree. I think I kind of subconsciously had something
I
like
think
that.
you kind of
But
have to.
Yeah. But
I'm gonna approach it differently.
Yeah.
Because the one, like I agreed with him in terms of like it is like I didn't feel like it was watching some footage created for a game. It felt like you were actually watching footage that had been produced for movies.
Yeah.
So on that, like they nailed it. It's just that the actual like watch all this footage to answer questions. I'm like, I don't even know what the questions are, which is the point, obviously.
Yeah.
But I gotta try it again at some point. But Aaron and I were talking about it just the other day, and he said like he played it through, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought he summed it up well. That it's like it's an absolute work of art. I'm not sure about it as a game.
Yeah, it's. I don't even know how you would classify that.
Yeah,
game, quote unquote.
Like all I can picture is back when the CD thing started, like when the Sega CD came out, games like Night Trap, where you were just watching full motion video, but you had to click a button to change a camera in order to catch certain, enemies before they actually do something.
Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, I know.
No, not Metal Gear. No,
no, I'm kidding.
But like something like that. I don't. It's what would you constitute a game? Because like to me, like I find the point and click stuff, I don't really consider that a game, like a video game.
Well, look, I mean, if we can call the original iteration of Minecraft a video game, which I think everybody did, then we can definitely call Immortality a game, right? I mean, there was 0 point to the original Minecraft. You just broke stuff and crafted stuff, period. So like there's no more point to that than there is Immortality. There's less in the original Minecraft like structure or point to the game than there is in Immortality. So like that's fine. It's more that it's an interesting mechanic with a game that you have to. With Minecraft, you just decide you're going to do something and you go and do it. With Immortality, it's like, yeah, you can decide that you're going to like find out about this specific thing, but there's also actually something that the game wants you to do that it doesn't make in any way clear to you. Which is different, but it doesn't make it any less of a game. It's just, it wasn't what I was prepared for.
Yeah, it's a different type. It's more like an art puzzle game.
Yeah.
I think for something like Immortality, and probably I assume Her Story as well, the word art needs to be in that descriptor of that game.
Well, the same could be said about Pentiment then.
Well, no, Pentiment is a visual novel game.
It's still like point and click though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but there's a difference. I
consider it art just for the style of the game alone.
Well, I mean art in more like the thumb up ones, but type of art.
The pejorative art.
Yes.
We actually talked a little bit about her story as well.
Yeah.
I have not played it, but Aaron said in that you actually, and I should check it out. He said you're actually querying a system for information. So unlike Immortality, where it's sort of just like, I'm going to click here and see what happens, and then here and see what happens. With her story, apparently you were actually like asking a system questions. So even though you were still, it was almost like you don't have to work to answer the question. My understanding, again, I haven't played it, but it sounded like you didn't really have to work to answer the question. You had, the only part that you were working on was figuring out what the right question was.
That almost sounds more like text-based games back in the
I
DOS
think
era.
similar in nature. Whereas Immortality, it's like they almost were like, it was super cool that like you had to figure out what the question to ask was. What if we made it so you also have to figure out the answers? And it's like, that's fine. It's just not what I was prepared for.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna try it again next time I have some time. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna try it again. But this time I'm gonna like sit down with a notebook and I'm gonna actually like try to graph out like, okay, let's find out about this person and what they're doing and who they are and whatever. I think if I do it if I take a more systematic approach, I will enjoy it because I do like that sort of like puzzle. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't prepared for that when I clicked around those videos for a while and I was like, this is really cool and the footage is great and everything else. But I spent, an hour maybe clicking around stuff and I'm like, I could have just opened the game 2 minutes ago. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing.
To be honest, though, that doesn't change anyway when you take a systematic approach. You're still kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? Well,
we actually, Aaron and I talked a little bit about strategies that I'm going to try. I'm not going to say them because I want to know if they work before I say them out loud. But I'm going to take a very systematic approach and see if there is actually tricks that the developers have left in that you can actually specifically find what you're looking for if you structure your questions.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe it is just sort of like clicking around and hoping for the best. But I'm going to take a 100% systematic approach to it and see if that exists, if you can actually make use of that.
I think you might be able to.
I think so too, based on the little bit that I was exploring. For anyone who doesn't know what Immortality is, this entire conversation has been a waste of your time. But
go to the website. I have a review there.
There is a review there by Sarah, which is great. And also, it's on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass and feel like checking it out, I mean, I don't feel like I wasted time clicking around for the while. It's just that I didn't feel like I had played a game either.
Yeah.
I felt like I had watched little snippets of a movie.
Yeah.
So if you guys are into games like that, there's a few that I'd recommend. And I'm only going to recommend because I haven't played them, but it just sounds like something that would be up your alleys. One is called Not for Broadcast, where
I want to play that one. So bad.
You work for a television network, I believe, and you have to censor certain information so that the public doesn't hear it, but you can choose whether to oblige or not.
It's like the TV version of Papers, Please.
Yeah. So there's that one, and then Return of the Obra Dinn, which was you're investigating an old seafaring vessel and trying to discover how the crew were all killed. And I think those would be two games I think you two would really, really enjoy.
I might have to check them out.
Yeah.
If I have a lot of time coming up, I will check it out. I may be making a significant change in career very soon, so that's why I keep saying if I end up having more time. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'll check those out for sure. But yeah, I kept meaning to bring it up because I know you played through Immortality and liked it, and we talked about it. We had a whole episode talking about it. And yeah, Aaron and I were on a call and we were chatting about it, and his impression was not dissimilar to mine, except that he actually finished it. So yeah. But Chad, I actually want to go back to this racing thing because I've been thinking about getting into racing games.
Cool. Depends on what. Like, are you into like the sim stuff, or do you prefer the arcadey kind of aspects?
Well, I like both, but I was actually I'm over here while you guys were dicking around in the documents. I was over here searching Amazon for like driving rig and steering wheel and stuff.
Like I'll say man, you can't go wrong with Gran Turismo. Honestly, like for the full-blown sim aspect of driving, Gran Turismo's always nailed it.
I thought Forza was the new one that was the best.
Well, Forza Horizon is more of a kind of arcadey. It's not full-blown arcadey, but it's just kind of at that point, but it never goes over it. There's still a lot of sim aspects to it, but it's not full-blown arcadey. I think Horizon was to try and attract more gamers to the franchise, and hopefully like they'd be the ones that'd be like, oh well, I should go play Forza Motorsport then.
I see.
Yeah, Forza Motorsport is their like sim heavy one.
So in fairness, if I buy one of these $2,000 racing cockpits, it comes with the like racing driver training software.
Oh my God.
So, I mean,
turn left,
right?
Turn left again.
No, my understanding is that this is actually in the same. I'm talking out of my ass here. I'm basing this on like some Amazon text. But my understanding here is that this is the sort of thing that if you want to, in the same way that you would use a bike trainer to train between races and stuff, this looks like there is an actual full-on like physics simulation racing game that's not really a game. It just simulates racing. And like these things have like the whole 9 yards, sequential shifters, racing brakes, everything. And it's like a subscription software that costs a fairly substantial amount of money, but you get like a year free if you buy. I'm not buying a $2,000 racing cockpit, but apparently that exists. I think that's a legitimate thing. So anyways, I'm not going to buy that, but I kind of do want a racing seat in my simulator that has a 5-point harness, because I feel like that's just so fucking pretentious. I'm going to go real fast here.
I'm going to turn left.
Yeah.
Well, and it could double for a cockpit seat when you decide to fly.
That is something that I forget if I mentioned it when we were talking about the Dream Dice to Pixels HQ having a flight sim cockpit. Yeah. I think I mentioned it then would be.
So yeah, it purely depends on what your poison is for racing games. I've always preferred the arcadey kind of insane drifting around corners and all that stuff. My favorite racing game is probably Burnout Revenge. And it came out on the Xbox 360 PS3. And it was just a crazy like straight up drifting, just unrealistic racing game where you could like smash into people, make them crash. And
I might put up a cover art right here, but on the cover art for the game, there is a car in midair doing a barrel roll essentially from having had a collision. So clearly not much of a sim game.
Yeah, it's fun because the Burnout series always had this mode in it called Crash Mode, where you drive your car into an intersection and you try to cause as much damage financially as you possibly can, and it had different tiers for it. But then after a while, this meter starts to build up in Revenge. This meter will start to build up, and it's called Crash Breaker. And when it's full, you hit a button, and your car explodes, and anything in the vicinity explodes too and outward to cause more damage.
This sounds like my type of game.
It's great. Like I loved it. Like Burnout Revenge was by far and away like my favorite in the series. So that's my kind of racing game. That's what I like.
So this is from the Wikipedia article on it. A new gameplay feature in Burnout Revenge is the ability to ram same way small to medium traffic, known as traffic checking.
You can rear end. You just rear end them, and it knocks them out of the way. Like because there's always like certain tracks where there's a lot of traffic, right? And yeah, there's a mode there's a mode in it. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called like Rampage or something, where your timer extends every time you rear end like all these cars, and you can combo them and into other cars and all this stuff. Ridiculously fun. So much so that I think I might re-download it on the Xbox Series X.
So, not to say that I wouldn't play that or that I wouldn't enjoy it, but that's not the sort of racing that I was thinking about picking up. No, I think I would probably pick up probably Gran Turismo. I mean, I think that was the last racing game that I played.
Yeah.
It's just that I probably played like Gran Turismo 3 and we're up to 42. 42.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about, I don't know that I'm actually going to buy like the cockpit rig or anything, because they're actually cheaper than I thought they were.
Yeah.
Like it looks like you can get a half decent one for $200 that you just bolt stuff to.
Mm.
I might, but I do think I am going to get like a decent wheel and pedal set because.
So yeah, I'll say Forza Horizon 4 and 5 are both on Game Pass. They're worth checking out.
That's actually what made me think about this, is that there's like a whole bunch of racing games on Game Pass.
Yeah, they're definitely worth checking out. Grid and Grid Legends are both also on Game Pass. They're good too. They're good racing games. And also too, like you can't go wrong with Crash Team Racing, man.
Could you imagine playing Crash Team Racing with like an actual racing rig? That'd be
that'd be
amazing.
nuts.
I mean, if I get one, we can play it.
That'd be so dope.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get like a multiplayer setup that you can do head to head in a rig.
Mm-hmm.
And then
can you
we'll
hook up those rigs to Switches?
Like
to Nintendo Switch?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh,
because most of them are USB.
That's unfortunate, because Mario Kart would have been hilarious as well.
Let's find out. Well, no, we'll find out after that. I'm sure somebody out there knows the answer. Yeah, that would be fairly amusing. Although, not sure how that would work, since the controls for Mario Kart don't exactly lend themselves to proper feedback or anything. It's either go full steam or don't.
So it's basically the same as Crash.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. There's and also there's also Lonely Mountain Downhill, which is
the
driving your mountain bike downhill, which is really fun too.
That reminds me. Sorry, go ahead.
You want to drive a mountain bike down a hill?
No, although I do have a mountain bike specifically for that purpose.
It'd be pretty crazy right now. We could get some insane wipeouts.
I mean, it's a fat tire bike. It does pretty well in the snow.
Ooh.
Like it's chonky tire. Because I'm a fat guy, so I have fat tires.
Big.
No, it's me. I can call myself fat. It's okay.
Sexy.
Well, I didn't. Those aren't mutually exclusive. So Draw Rider is a game. It's one of the like 40-cent games that I picked up a while ago. I think it's like 99 cents regular, maybe. Excite Bike. Did either of you ever play Excite Bike?
Yep.
It's a little bit like that, where like there's eventually, as you get further in the game, there's like saw blades that you have to dodge and stuff like that.
Cool.
And there's like gravity reversals and everything. It reminded me a lot of Excite Bike, but it's all like pencil drawing. Like there's no like textures to it, except for your guy. You can get like helmets and stuff.
Mm.
But the levels get progressively more detailed as you go.
Cool.
And it's not just a bike. There's also like a hoverboard and like a monster truck and like a scooter. It's like frustratingly difficult at times. Mm-hmm. But I kind of dig it. I've played a little bit of it. I've probably played 2 or 3 hours of it at least. Mm-hmm. And for 40 cents, I got to say it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
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 Oh, which reminds me, I was talking about Graveyard Keeper earlier. It is quite on sale at the moment. It's like $5 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So if you're interested in a creepy, weird Stardew Valley, check it out because it is good.
Did you notice the name of the pub in that game?
Oh, yeah.
The Dead Horse.
I was thinking of it as an inn, but the Dead Horse,
Dead Horse Tavern.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to fixing the fountain or pool out front, whatever it is, so that I can go swimming. I don't know if you can do that.
Swimming in blood.
Well, one of the things that you craft is a bucket of blood. So I assume eventually I could dump enough blood into the pool to fill it up.
Wonderful.
That game's I've been really impressed with Graveyard Keeper, and there's like a package with all the DLC right now. I did not get the DLC initially because I wasn't sure if I'd enjoy it, but I think I'm going to go back and buy all the DLC for it.
So did you ever play Stardew Valley?
I have it. I even played it a little bit.
Wasn't evil enough?
Well, there's that. That's kind of the truth. I played a lot of Factorio, and I'm trying to think of all the other games that I've played that are RimWorld, Stardew Valley-ish. And I think the thing is that at the time that Stardew Valley came out, I had been playing a bunch of other ones, and Stardew Valley wasn't different enough for me to get into it.
Okay.
Whereas this one, it's like, okay, no, this is different. This is you're managing a graveyard, which is like distinctly different. I'll give it a shot. And then once the story starts unraveling, which it's a pretty light story, but it's a very dark story. So that was enough to sort of get me hooked. And then once I'm hooked on any of these games, I take it to the nines. So
right on. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on.
I'm going to play it with my racing wheel and pedals.
It'd be hilarious. I'm going to have to try this now.
You might like it.
The fact that it's evil just makes it all the better.
Yeah. I think that this is the only spoiler I'm going to give because it's little spoiler. You find yourself in the middle of an inquisition.
Cool.
Nice.
Helping the Inquisition.
Nice.
Perfect.
So, it gets pretty dark. And then it gets darker from there.
Can you name your character in it?
No. You're just called the Graveyard Keeper / people abbreviate it to Keeper.
Because I was going to say, did you name yours Phineas?
No, although, I mean, well, the nice thing is, like, nobody ever calls you by a name at all. So you can be called whatever you want. It's just nobody actually calls you that name. So, but I've been enjoying it. And then I downloaded something else, but I can't remember what it was that was going to be next on my list.
I remember you talking about it.
I know that's super helpful for everybody. Yep. It doesn't matter because I'm not going to get to it before next week's episode anyways, I don't think. So
yeah, I remember you talking about it as well.
Yeah, there was something. But I mean, if anybody cares / doesn't already know, there's a big base builder Steam sale going on, or at least there was. I think it's still going on. That's why Graveyard Keeper was on sale.
Yeah.
Bunch of games like it are. So if that's your jam, give it a go. Yeah.
So go buy it now. Do it.
I recommend it. I wholeheartedly recommend it.
Yeah. I haven't played a whole lot. I think I only played one in-game week last night, and I liked it so far. So.
Riveting dialogue.
Yeah. The best thing for me is how how cutesy and upbeat all the audio is, like the music and the like chipper NPCs and everything else in the middle of this like clearly demonic cult that's going on.
It reminds me like Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Similar.
Which was you're just
yeah, it's kind of Cult of the Lamb meets Stardew Valley.
Perfect.
That's kind of what it is.
Well, no,
that's its vibe. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on.
What time are we at?
15.
Oh, we're later than I thought we were.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking we should move on to something else super interesting, but we don't really have time to. What else there was something else that we were going to talk about briefly, but I don't remember what it was.
Batman Escape from Arkham.
Oh yeah, that is exactly what it was. Yeah. So I thought that I was going to be able to like tell Chad some like cool news because Batman Escape from Arkham Asylum, the board game, is on GameFound and it's got 11 days left. And I was like, yeah, Chad will love this. We'll like order it. It's 129 euros and then another 35 euros to ship it to Canada, which means that it's basically a $220 game, which is, that game is not worth $220. It's like, don't get me wrong, the miniatures look good. And I think that it's got a decent amount of stuff in it, but it does not look like it's anywhere near as in-depth as some of the other games like Madara or Gloomhaven or anything like that.
Or Wonderbook.
Or even Wonderbook, yeah, which was only 100, by the way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not gonna back it. Maybe when it eventually filters down to retail someday. But I was pretty floored when I saw the price. Which, in fairness, if it was like $130, $140 Canadian and was shipping from Canada, I think that would be okay. But it's like $220, and that's assuming you don't get hit by any duties or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Too much.
Doesn't it usually tend to be a bit better coming from overseas as opposed to America?
In terms of like
shipping.
duties and stuff? So in theory, I think this was one of the games. So more and more Kickstarters and game founds and whatever are doing what they're called friendly shipping, which is basically they prepay the customs for you. They figure out what the customs are actually going to be, and then they prepay them. So in theory, I think that this game wouldn't run into that. But it's still $220 and a possibility that it will, and a possibility it gets lost in transit or gets delayed at a port or any of that nonsense. So not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I was briefly excited.
Yeah.
Teach me to get my hopes
We
up.
can be excited for other people.
Yeah, I mean, if you've pre-ordered it, let us know. I'd be interested in knowing what people think about it. I will be watching the YouTube reviews when it comes out, like everybody else, or anybody else who cares, anyways. But I do not think I will be one of the people that has a copy.
Probably doesn't hold a candle to Spill Jimmers.
Right?
Yeah. Well, now that Wizards released Beholder, Sarah said earlier that we're going to have a Beholder gym.
Yep.
Yeah.
And hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I'll finally get my first Diceling.
Oh, you ordered one?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, estimated middle of February. So
cool.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
so.
those are really, really cool. I think I didn't realize they were available yet.
Yep.
I'll have to order a couple as well because they look super cool. For anyone who doesn't know what these are, they are the merchandise for the new D&D movie. They are little D20s that transform into like an owlbear, dragons,
A beholder.
Beholder. Yeah,
two dragons, a beholder, and an owl.
Yeah,
So.
they're super cool. Anyone who likes Transformers and or cool things.
Hi.
Yeah. Our resident Transformer nerd.
Damn proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
As you should be.
Yes.
I guess that's pretty much it for today. This was a bit of a meandering one, but I had fun. Hopefully everybody at home did too.
I mean, we talked about games and stuff.
We did talk about games.
We always have a fantastic time talking about games.
And we always do.
Yep.
Yeah. If history repeats itself in any way, shape, or form, by about an hour from now, I will have ordered a full racing rig.
Well, there we go.
That's kind of how it worked with the Steam Deck,
And
wasn't
the
it?
Xbox.
Yeah.
Steam Deck and Xbox. It was like just after we went offline or stopped recording, I was like, bye.
Yeah. And if you want to know if that happens, check out our Discord.
Yeah.
And you can find out right there. I'm sure we'll post something in there.
I'll post it on Discord if I buy one. Realistically, I will not be buying it tonight because I need to do some research if I'm going to actually pull the trigger on this.
Yeah.
But there's a good chance I'll have ordered it by next week.
Okay. And on that note, Sarah, take us out.
Oh, you did it again. Thanks
Like
for
There
watching.
you go.
Like, subscribe, hit the notification button if you feel like it. Join our Discord. Come talk to us. Be your friends.
Yes.
We like hearing from you. Let us know what you've been playing this week in the comments below.
That was perfect. Good
And
job. We'll see you next week. Dig it.